Yeah, guess who's back? It's Back chat's back and I'm better than ever. Gonna post content no matter the weather. Hard work, dedication, Floyd Mayweather. Bomb squad, about to put the game on a stretcher. AJ had a couple of off nights. Root switches, lights off and Usyk hitting with straight rights. Canelo chasing greatness but came up short. Javonte Davis knocks out Rolly, man, that's what I thought. Terence Crawford pound for pound on everybody's list. The big fish gonna do the talking with his fist. Teofimo still planning the takeover. Haney, Shakur and Davis are taking the game over. But guess who's back? I said guess who's back? Man, guess who's back? I said guess who's back?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. So we're going to get straight into this one. It's just been announced that Errol Spence and Keith Thurman are in talks, which most people probably know about now. It's almost certain that this fight's going to go ahead. I like the fact that they've tried to put together, a decent fight that people can kind of get excited about. I kind of feel like it's all a little bit too late in a way. There was a time when Keith Thurman was a champion and Errol Spence was, knocking out everyone and coming up, and people kind of had a feeling that Errol Spence was perhaps the best, but Keith Thurman had the belts, and he was at that time. That's when it would have been competitive, really competitive. That's when we would have seen the best of both men. Unfortunately, it didn't happen at that time. Keith Thurman didn't give the shot to Errol Spence, and then later on, obviously, we know Keith Thurman got injured and was off for a very long time with multiple injuries, ligament tears and all sorts. And then since while he was off, Errol Spence was basically taking over the division. Now things have turned around, the tables have turned. Keith Thurman's now back. I like Keith Thurman, by the way, one of my favourite fighters, and not just as a fighter, but just as a personality. I'm actually a bit of a fan of Keith Thurman. I like his analytical mind. I like watching his interviews. I like his enthusiasm. I think he's a real showman and a salesman as well. He can sell a fight. He sold the fight of him and Pacquiao to me, definitely. And I think Keith Thurman's good for boxing. I think it's a shame that he's had so many injuries, and I'm not sure how old he is now. I think he's a year or two older than Spence, but it's a shame. I think that those injuries have kind of robbed him of his best years, or of his potential. I think without those injuries, he could have done a little bit more in the sport. I could be wrong about that, because with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford around, maybe he wouldn't have achieved as much. He wouldn't have become champion with those two around anyway. But it definitely would have made it competitive if he could have been at his best. But nevertheless, we've got this fight now, Keith Thurman and Spence. It seems like it's going to go ahead, but it's going to go ahead at 154 pounds instead. It's like the middleweight division instead of 147 pounds. I don't think it makes much difference. Errol Spence, basically, I feel like Errol Spence has accomplished most of what he wanted to accomplish. He's got the 3 belts, and I feel like he's a big guy. Errol Spence is a big guy. He does have to go through quite a difficult weight cut to get to 147. It doesn't matter what anyone says. All you have to do is look at him and see that he's quite a big guy, and he does cut a lot of weight to get to 147 pounds. And I think he was just waiting around for the Terence Crawford fight, which fell through. As soon as that fight fell through, and nobody's fault, Terence Crawford, their negotiations fell through. Terence Crawford got offered that £10 million for Avanesian. He had to take it. I think, this is a business. He had to take it in the end. If he wasn't going to get his way with the negotiations with Spence, then he had to grab the bag, as they say, get to the bag. He beat Avanesian and got to the bag with that one. But Errol Spence, he can't afford to wait around, for anyone else. There's no one else that's worth his time, especially not a guy without the belts. Like Keith Thurman doesn't have any belt. He's got a loss to Manny Pacquiao already on his record, so there's no reason. And Spence already said that he wasn't going to fight Thurman, because Thurman didn't give him a shot at the belt as well. So I can clearly see why it's happening at 154 pounds. Spence hasn't got the energy to waste time cutting down to get to 147 just to fight someone who's already been defeated and doesn't have a belt and hasn't fought for however long. You know, although Thurman did look good against Barrios, I think was his last fight, but even so, it's just not worth Spence's time. So Spence's moving up. They've presented that contract, I'm guessing, to Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman's, he's okay with it himself. I mean, he's like 33 or something. I'm not sure how old he is. I should have looked it up before making this video, but I know he's a year or two older than Spence. So for him, he's not too thrilled about cutting weight. So any opportunity he's got not to cut weight, I think he's quite happy to take that as well. So Thurman's fine with fighting at 154, and Spence is most definitely good with fighting at 154. So they made the fight at that weight. Also, it favours Spence because Spence's belts are not on the line. So it's just a fight. It just goes to show that he's not ducking anyone, and it's just going to be a good fight. Now, best case scenario for Thurman, if Thurman was to somehow beat Errol Spence, he's got bragging rights. He could come back down to 147, and obviously, it would probably be Spence would vacate the belt and stuff like that, and Thurman would be, the main guy to fight for the belts, But, I just feel like it's the timing of it. It's not the biggest fight. It could have been a bigger fight. It's still an exciting fight to watch, but the problem I have is I give Thurman less of a chance than I would have given him previously, and considerably less, to be honest. I don't think he has much of a chance to beat Errol Spence. And this is unfortunate because, like I said, I like Keith Thurman for a number of reasons. I feel like in their prime, Keith Thurman would have been the smaller man anyway. But he's definitely going to be considerably smaller at 154 pounds, even if he was going to be smaller at 147 pounds. So I think there's going to be more of a difference at 154. I feel like Keith Thurman is a natural 147 pounder, and I feel like Spence will just be getting much stronger. At 154 pound, I think Spence is going to be at his proper weight. I really do. And I think it will affect Thurman more at 154, even for this one fight. I just think Spence is going to be stronger and faster and just much more powerful, and Thurman may actually be a bit slower and easier to hit, and he might get tired quicker at 154. But end of the day, these guys cut a lot of weight. Maybe they're both going to be at their best at 154. So who knows? But anyway, we got this fight. What chance do I give Thurman to beat Spence? A puncher's chance, to be honest. Because I feel like, although Thurman has a lot of experience and a lot of things going on, the injuries, some people could say they both have injuries, but I don't think that's true. I think Spence has got over his injuries, because his two main injuries were the car accident, which he's got over now, and the eye injury, which is considerably better now. He said his eye is better than before. And I believe him. With Thurman now, his injuries are kind of like ligament tears and joint issues, yeah. And I know, take it from me as a person who's done a lot of fitness and sparring. I've done all sorts of things in my youth before. Too many things. I played too many sports in my youth. Ligament tears and joint issues, they don't get better. They don't get better. You can manage them. If you're out for a long time, you do a lot of physio, you do a lot of yoga, you do a lot of Pilates, you do a lot of restorative exercises. You can feel great and feel amazing. But when you're in the ring fighting a guy who, you haven't got any chance of beating unless you're at your best, these injuries come back. And that's a guarantee. I know it sounds kind of negative, but I'm just being honest. Fighters who have had ligament damage and joint conditions, joint issues, they don't rejuvenate in a way that you can go back to the heights of competitive boxing or competitive sports. You at best you can get better so that you can be competitive, you can be out of pain and things like that. But that's often a false sense of security. That's what makes you think that you're better. But when you're fighting at a very high standard, like I said, these injuries come back, and I feel like Spence is going to be the fresher of the two fighters in the ring. Having said that, Thurman did look good in his last fight, but he's going to deal with a lot of adversity. Both of them will. There's some pros and cons, which I'll just go into real quick. Thurman has, obviously everyone knows about the power, but I think what's even more important is his movement. His experience in his movement. He's actually a really good mover. He's very good at slipping punches and he's got a lot of experience in there. He's very slippery. He's not going to be that easy to hit. I feel like Thurman may feel that he's the faster fighter, and I think he knows that Spence is going to be the stronger fighter. So I think his strategy is going to be like try and hit Spence with something hard and fast. Take advantage of Spence being a little bit slow and a bit of a slow start. Try and hit him early and quick. Put it on him early and quick, because the longer it goes on, the more it favours Spence. Spence is going to take his time and break Thurman down and cut the ring down and start landing those hard body shots and start making his presence, the bigger man presence felt. And Thurman's going to be mainly on the back foot, running, as you would say, but moving around and looking for that power shot. And I think his time is just going to start running out if he doesn't land it early. So he has a chance with the experience that Thurman has, the movement and the power. He always has a chance, but he only has a chance of kind of catching Spence unaware, maybe in between punches, or just maybe before he puts his guard up or something like that. Other than that, I see Spence kind of running away with this fight, and I feel like Thurman's going to start fading, and I think Spence probably is going to end up getting stronger. It could be competitive in the end. It could be close. I think Thurman would do well to get to a decision. A decision loss. If he puts up a good fight and has a good performance, we know that Thurman's got something left. If he gets completely annihilated, then the proof is going to be in the pudding. But for me, I don't think it's going to be that competitive. I think I edge Spence, 70-30 to win this fight quite comfortably. I feel like the biggest obstacle that Spence can face against Thurman will be Thurman's movement, because Spence kind of needs a bit of time to get warmed up and to set up those punches, and Thurman probably just won't let him do that. So I could clearly see the fight maybe being competitive for the first maybe 4 or 5 rounds, but as soon as Thurman slows down just a little bit, as soon as he takes his foot off the gas just a little bit, I think he's done. That power's going to come through. I just don't see Thurman being able to withstand the power that's going to be coming at him. But I'm still looking forward to the fight. It's nice to get excited about 2 top guys fighting. But I see Spence winning quite comfortably, like I said. Now, moving on, let's say Spence wins. I don't think he's coming back to 147 pounds. He's just not going to come. He's just not going to cut weight again to go through all that. Definitely not to fight Terence Crawford. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see Terence Crawford and Spence at 147 pounds. I could be wrong about that, but I just don't see why Spence has to do it. Why should Spence cut after fighting a tough fight and come down to fight the toughest fight of his life? It just doesn't really make sense. I think he'll stay at 154 pounds. The good news is I'm 90% sure Terence Crawford is going to move up to £154 to fight Spence. So we will get to see the fight, but it probably won't be at £147. That's because I don't think Terence is worried about going to 154. He wants to go to 154 to fight Charlo. He's more than happy to go up to fight Spence. And it could actually be a bit of a strategy for Spence as well, because maybe Spence is moving up to 154 to make sure that he maximizes being the bigger man. Because Spence can say, right, I've accomplished what I wanted to. I couldn't get the fight with you, Terence Crawford. Gone up to 154, try and win titles up there, and force Terence Crawford to move up to 154, which is not his natural weight. And that way, Spence will be able to beat him more easily. I think that is something that could be in the back of Spence's mind, because we all know Terence Crawford is a smaller guy. He came up from 140, which I think he was actually too small for, but he came up to 140, and I think that Terence is a natural 147 pounder, and Spence is a natural 154 pounder. So if you can force the smaller man to fight your 154, I think Spence has probably got more of a chance of beating Terence at 154 than at 147. Let's see, but I think that may be something in the back of his mind. If that's something that Spence is aiming to do, it's very smart, very, very smart. I mean, Spence is not stupid, He has to do what's right for him. He didn't get the fight with Crawford. Fight Keith Thurman at 154. Beat Thurman, which I think he will do, and then force the naturally smaller man, which is Terence Crawford, to chase you and come up to your natural weight where you've got more chance of winning. Just makes perfect sense. I think it's the perfect strategy. And I'm actually a Terence Crawford fan, and I think Terence Crawford, he's got more of a chance of losing at 154 to Errol Spence. But we'll have to see what happens. I'm on to the next one. And let me know your thoughts. Do you give Thurman more or less of a chance of beating Errol Spence than I did? I don't give him much of a chance at all. Do you think it will be more competitive? Do you think that we won't see the fight between Spence and Crawford at all? I think we will see the fight, but it will definitely be at 154. Let me know what you think.
Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back?
If you enjoyed the video today, please don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.